Hey guys, Justin here. Today we're talking about hot tents. So hot right now. I've been looking at hot tents for a couple years now, ever since they kind of got really popular, but I've always been turned off by the price tag. You're looking at $200 to $800 US for the tent and another $500 US for the stove. And that's just been way out of my price range. Up until now, there really hasn't been a good affordable option out there, but 3F UL has come to the rescue again. They've been making one of my favorite tents in the market, the Lanshan 1. They've made a hot tent system that's half the price or even less than all of the other options out there. And today I'm gonna give you my first impressions on what this new setup by 3F UL looks like. This is a first impressions video, not a full review. I've set the tent up 3 times, once to do a burn-in of the stove. I took it on an overnight trip, and then this is the 3rd time here. But I feel like I've gotten some good first impressions with it, and I want to share that with you in case you are looking for a hot tent to get you through the winter. And there's some really unique and innovative features with the tent and the stove that I want to share with you because I haven't really seen them in any other tents and stoves on the market. With price being one of the big selling features of this hot tent system, let's get that out of the way right away. The tent alone costs $220 US, which is not too much of a deal, but still a pretty good price, about 50% less than some of the other options out there that I found in the market. And then the stove costs $200 US, which is like a third less than a lot of the other stoves out there. One of the big considerations is that it's made of stainless steel instead of titanium, like some of the more high-end stoves. And we're gonna get into whether that's a big deal in a little bit here. Next question I had was weight, because I like to take my gear on backpacking trips. I'm not setting up too much for car camping, so I'm having to throw this tent and stove on my back, so weight was a big consideration. And the tent is pretty heavy at 3 kilograms, with the pole that goes up the middle weighing 500 grams. So that's a decent amount of weight that you're adding there with the tent, but it is a pretty big tent. We're gonna go over the size in a little bit. And then the stove weighs 2.5 kilograms all in. That's with the stove, all the little pieces with it, as well as the storage bag. And that 2.5 kilograms is a little bit heavier than the 1.8 kilograms that you'd see with some of the titanium options that are out there. So while not super lightweight, they're lightweight enough that I was able to take both the tent and the stove with me on a solo backpacking trip for a decent distance in the winter over some pretty uneven terrain, and I didn't really have that much of a problem. While cost and weight are big factors, what I think is really cool with these is that they have some really unique features. And we're gonna go take a tour of the tent and stove and take a look at everything that they have to offer. First up, the width of the tent. So this tent is 4.2 meters wide, so that's the diameter because it is an octagonal shape. So it has 8 different corners to it that you have to stake out. And then it's 2.2 meters tall, and that's what the pole is right here. It comes with an adjustable pole that you can use to raise the tent up. And as you can see, it's tall enough that I can stand in it, which is really nice if you're getting changed in the wintertime or just need to stretch your legs out. It has 2 doors. So there's one door that you can see here, and then there's another door on the opposite side. So if you want to open it up completely, you can do that and have really nice cross draft and use it kind of like a tarp. And both doors can be tied back in 2 different ways. You can either tie back just one half of the door because it zips all the way up to the top and then have the front staked out, or you can tie out both doors like I have right here. Another neat feature with the doors is that they are 2-way zip. So you can zip it from the bottom, or there's another zipper at the top. So you can open it up at the top and add a little bit of ventilation. And there's 2 pulls on the inside of the tent that you can use to open up the door a little bit and increase the ventilation at the top of the tent. As well, those pulls on the inside I really like as an option for being able to hang things up if you want to dry them, which can happen in the wintertime as you sweat and get a bunch of moisture into your gear. Like I said, it's an 8-sided tent, so there's 8 different stakeout points scattered throughout the perimeter of the tent. And a really cool thing that they did with the stakeout points was that they have 2 different points of webbing that you can stake out. One right on the edge, and you can stake that in a traditional tent way, or there's another piece of webbing about 6 inches up the tent that you can stake out in order to create a bit of a skirt here that you can pile snow on top of and really lock down your tent from a wind and snow drifts perspective. As well, there's 6 different guy out points. So there's one right here that you can use and tighten that right up in order to pull the tent a little bit away from the center, and that creates a lot more space. And something that I really like is that they create little pockets for each of the guy out points. So you can tuck the rope away when you're not using it, and then that way you're not getting it all tangled up, and it makes it really nice for storage. The tent is made with a 40 denier ripstop nylon, really nice durable product, and then it has a couple different things happening at the top here. So on this side, you can see we have the stove jack. So there's a Velcro on stove jack that's made with a fireproof material that you stick the stove chimney through. And on the other side, there's a vent that stays open all the time that allows for air to circulate through the tent. So really well put together teepee tent. They advertise it's good for between 4 to 6 people, but I think with the stove in it, you probably max out at 3 comfortably, 4 in a pinch, and without the stove, you could definitely put 4, maybe 5 people inside of there. And now one of the coolest parts of this whole system, the stove. And this stove is pretty neat and has some really cool design features. So here we have the stove. Like I said, it's made of stainless steel, 304 grade stainless steel to be specific, and 304 is really good for its malleability, so you can shape it into a lot of different things, as well as have it so that it creates a cylinder like the chimney here that you roll up. And then it's also very corrosion resistant, which is a nice quality. The coolest thing I think about this stove is its shape and design. So we have a half cylinder shaped stove here. Most of the other stoves in the market that you see, they're either a box shape or they're complete cylinder. What they did with this one is you have the flat top, and then you have these U-shaped ends that you put on, and then you have a sheet of stainless steel that you tuck into those ends to create the bottom. And what I really like about this is you have the weight savings of the cylinder style stove with the usability of a box stove. So you can put pots on top of this and boil water and do your cooking, and that's really nice because with the cylinder ones you just don't have that kind of capability. And because it uses a thin stainless steel sheet for the sides and bottom, you save a lot of weight compared to a box style stove, whether that's stainless steel or even titanium. Something to be careful of with the top, even though you can put pots and stuff on top of it to cook, is that when you get it really, really hot, this happened to me on my trip, you can, if you have a big, heavy pot filled with water, you could start to warp the steel if you have a lot of wood in there and you have it going full blast. Another issue I had with the tent is the chimney and how that operates. The chimney comes with a cap that you can put on top that's supposed to prevent snow and rain from getting in, but I found that it still allowed sparks to come out, and I ended up with a little hole right there from a spark. So what I did was I made a little spark arrestor that I could just put on top. It's made of a fine steel mesh, and that's gonna hopefully prevent that from happening again. Looking at some of the other features of the stove, we have the door here, and they added nice little rings here that you can use to open and close the door without having to burn your fingers, which is really nice. It actually operates quite smoothly, especially once you burn the stove in. So definitely once you get the stove, put a bunch of wood in it, light it up. It makes it so that the chimney's a lot easier to roll up, and then everything just kind of fits together a lot nicer after that first burn. Another feature that's kind of nice is the window. I wasn't sure if a window was essential for a stove, but it is good to be able to keep tabs on how much wood you have in there, as well as how hot your fire might be burning. And that brings us to the air flow management in this stove. So right on the bottom here, we have air intake, and there's another little ring here that you can use to open and close this wheel. You can have it so that there's just one little wedge open, or have it fully open. And then there's a damper on the back that you can use. You turn this and that opens up the airflow through the chimney. And if you really want to burn your wood really fast, get this thing really hot, open that fully up and you'll get a really hot fire going. If you want to have a bit of a slower smolder or not have the fire go as hot and burn your wood as quickly, then you can close these up and manage the airflow with those two. And I found it was a very effective system. I used it a bunch when I was on my trip, and I was able to really manage the heat that was coming out of the stove, as well as how quickly my wood was burning. Like all lightweight stoves, it doesn't have a ton of capacity. I think it's around 16 inches long. I'll actually put that right up there so you guys can see what the dimensions are. And it has a nice big opening, so you can put some pretty big logs into here. But the issue with hot tents is that these stoves aren't gigantic, and you're not gonna be able to put enough wood inside of them to have it burn all night long. When I was out there, I found that it burned for about an hour or two if I managed the airflow, which is pretty good and kept me warm while I was kind of sitting around reading a book, and then it died out as I went to bed and got inside my sleeping bag. I found the stove pretty easy to put together. It didn't come with any instructions, but it was really intuitive. Everything fit together really well, and the construction seems really solid. 3FUL, they're an AliExpress Chinese brand and sometimes gets a bad rap, but I've used a lot of their products and have had good luck from a quality perspective with every single one of them. Size-wise, the stove packs up really small. It's a really nice flat system that fits into its own carry bag. The tent is definitely bulky and takes up a lot of room, but if you are winter backpacking, you probably have a bit of a bigger pack and have the room to fit both those in there, or you can just start strapping things to your pack. That's no problem too. If you want some more videos on winter camping, I'll post a link right up there to a playlist that has a whole bunch of tips and tricks, as well as information on gear for winter camping. And I'll definitely be doing a whole bunch more videos on hot tenting and this setup, so subscribe to the channel if you're interested in that. If you're looking to get a hot tenting and don't want to break the bank, then definitely check out the 3FUL tent and stove. I think they're pretty good options, but time will tell as we put these through the test over the course of the winter.